Welcome, everybody, to the first. Well, actually, let's do this proper. Happy New Year. It's the first show of the new year. So, Happy New Year, y'all. And thanks for chiming in and checking us out. But welcome to the Buds and Reality Podcast, the number one Liberty pod out of Detroit. I am your Motor City Radical, Sean Collins. And I got free in the house this week, man, from Are You Smarter Than a Politician? How you doing, brother?
What's up, y'all? Happy to be here, man. Happy New Year to you as well.
It is it's already been a new year, man. Like, it's the newest new year ever, I think, just with all the swarm of insanity that's already started the new year. Like, oh my God.
Well, first off, I don't remember taking half of those pictures from that New Year's Eve party that we were at. So, like, that was a big blackout for me. The tux changes and the pimp outfits and dressing up like Devo. Like, I don't remember any of that. So I apologize if I offended anybody. I must have had a really great time.
What do you mean you apologize if you offended anybody? We will keep offending all of you. Thank you very much.
It is on brand for both of us, isn't it?
Oh, I mean, it just kind of comes with the territory. It's not like we mean to do it. Like, I don't just wake up one day and say, hey, who can I make mad? I mean, maybe a couple times throughout the week.
That, like most days that end in Y.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things like, do I want to make people mad today or not? Do I want to have a day of peace or not? Well, it doesn't matter. If you're in the X threshold or any type of social media threshold, it is always a day. It's always some pleasant and or unpleasant surprise of who's going to be like, well, yeah, you're doing the right thing. And the other person saying, well, no, you're just a horrible piece of crap and blah, blah, blah. Well, we're here and we're going to do it. And that's that, man. But happy New Year. Hippie New Year. Yeah. Hippie New Year too, man. Peace and love, for real. Peace, love, and anarchy, as my boy Free would say.
Yep.
But, dude, it's a new year. It is it's an election year. Oh my God. Which
God help us.
Election years are always psychotic. They're completely mental. Like, everybody loses their mind. They gotta, rah for whoever they're, picking or whatever. And the rah is about over, I believe. I think we're there. I think people from the left are done. I think people from the right are done. It's MAGA.
I disagree. I mean, I post my artwork and I do the game show and, I piss everybody off. And, I have people coming at me all day. And I still think, 140 million people voted for the duopoly in the presidential election. I think 130 million plus of them are still on their knees and, subservient to the powers that be. So, do we get 10% of them back? Maybe. I mean, a 10% swing in politics would be a crazy number, right? I mean, have 10% of them been hit on the head and realized like all this is BS? I mean, most people don't even know what the Federal Reserve is. They don't know what their income tax bracket is. They don't know what they pay a year in federal tax. I mean, they don't know any of this stuff. So, I mean, they had this great enlightening. Like, what do you think? They read Spooner or something like over the last year? They just, they believe all this stuff. The Trump saying the nonsense about he's going to lower prescription drug prices by 1,500%. I mean, I posted, I'm like, I'm going to start getting chemotherapy drugs then because they're going to give me a 1,400% in cash. Like that's a big cash outlay. Like, give me all the drugs, man. 1,400%. Like, I'll retire.
And then sell them on the black market for double. And it'd still be a deal to society.
Yeah, I got a Somalian guy. We could get that done. I got a place in Minnesota.
We could, oh my God. Well, I mean, since you brought that up, we might as well just open the show. Where am I? I'm in my basement. But anyways, look, the Somalia thing in Minnesota is absolutely insane. And the crazy part about it is it was just some young kid who did some research that dug this all up. And that was
No. That guy is a paid guy. He is part of the establishment. He's already like rooting on Venezuela and all this stuff. He's such a paid guy.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh, he's absolutely, a paid guy. And, he was one of those guys like that kid that came out that was flying on private jets to go to schools and talk to sold out auditoriums or whatever, that went from like 10 followers to like 1 million followers overnight. He's one of those guys. And like all of a sudden he's like rah, rah, MAGA, blah, blah, blah. Like he's a paid guy.
Well, you mean so kind of like Ian Carroll a little bit, because where did that guy come from?
I don't know. Ian Carroll, though, I mean, he's not kissing any butts. I have no idea where any of these people came from, to be honest. But the only 3 people I know where they came from is my sons. So like for people like that, I mean, were they propped up at some point? Who knows? But like this guy for sure went from 0 to nothing, and then all of a sudden he's like singing the party praise and just echoing the company line.
You want to know what? You're probably not wrong, to be quite honest with you. But the whole fact of the matter is that, Walz got busted. Tim Walz got busted, allowing.
But what do we learn about Walz? That he's like a commie that's terrible with money and stuff. And we already knew that. Like this was not a big revelation.
Well, and no, it wasn't. But here we are. We find out that billions and tens of billions and maybe even over $100 billion went into these Somali daycares that were stagnant businesses, right? And you brought up the Federal Reserve, and we'll get to that in a second. But, here we are. They get busted. The Somali daycares are, put on blast, and here we are, and Americans are pissed. Some of the people from the left are like, well, what about the kids? What about the kids? There was no kids in those daycares, period. None, ever. But, I'm gonna crack Minnesota wide open for you guys right now. We are about 8 minutes into this show, and if YouTube takes me down, so be it. But I'll be careful with my words.
Should I put a helmet on?
You might need one just in case people throw shit. I don't know.
Let me look.
But no, check this out, you guys. Minnesota was not hard to debunk at all. I've been home from work now for a couple weeks. I'm self-employed. I'm a painter. It's winter time. It's the holiday time into the new year in Michigan. There's not a lot of work, so I've had some time to go down some rabbit holes. And this rabbit hole was actually a rabbi hole. Surprise, surprise. But I found out that here's the deal. Israel is actually actively trying to plant, and they have been for a while, a military base in Somalia. Now, why are they doing that? Well, it's because Somalia is the destination they want to move the Palestinians to. After this whole Gaza mess, is whatever you want to call it, I'm not getting into all that. But anyways, they're trying to relocate the Palestinians to Somalia, which would mean that most likely all these daycares that were taking all this money, billions and billions of dollars, which was probably money laundering, so the governments could pay the Somali drug lords off to accept these Palestinians into their state. Follow the money, man. It's always follow the money. And that's where we are right now. And a lot of people will be like, well, that sounds crazy. The world's crazy. Here we are. This is what it is. We're 10 minutes into this show now, and I'm already talking about how the state of Israel has influenced the Minnesota daycare situation. This is where that money went. They had to. There was no other way. The drug lords in Somalia, who are pretty hardcore, if you know anything about Somalia, they're not just going to let foreign people come in there and hang out and chill, dude. They're going to take their money, and that's that. And, of course, Israel wants a military base there so they can keep watch. 2 and 2 is 4. You follow the money. It really wasn't that hard to debunk. But guess what, guys? It's all true. Feel free to look it up. I don't care. Look it up and try to debunk me. But I know I'm right because I went down all the rabbi holes. But, that's the Minnesota thing anyways. And that really wasn't much to talk about because it just wasn't really much to talk about. The big thing to talk about is Venezuela. Now, before we jump into everything, I want to know exactly what you think about Venezuela, why it happened, and what was the outcome expected out of it. Where are you at on that?
Well, I mean, it's obviously dollar bills, y'all. Like, I mean, it's not only the money that they're going to rape from that country, but it's also, a petrodollar move. They don't want Venezuelan oil going to enemies. They don't want, BRICS to get a bigger foothold. It's all that stuff. But it's the rare earth minerals. It's all the minerals. I keep saying on X that it's the oil because, I'm talking to the masses. And so I keep saying oil, but it's more than just oil. It's all the minerals. And, some people are doing really great work out on X and doing the deep dives. But like a lot of AI and high tech stuff needs the minerals that are in Venezuela and Greenland. And they're going to go and pillage all of these places. I don't know if you saw my meme earlier, but I had, Trump and Hegseth as pirates. They're going after all these places as pirates, and they're going to rape and pillage and take all the stuff that Elon needs. And that's why Elon's back on board. They're going to get the minerals that these high tech companies need. It's a race for all that. And that's what the space stuff is about. And like, nobody talks about this. That's what all the space stuff is about. They want to go mine these planets for the minerals up there as well. So it's all about minerals and money.
Well, it is about minerals and money. And as a matter of fact, there's copious amounts of silver in Venezuela. And contrary to popular belief, and I'll go into the chat and check it out in a second, you guys, after I get through with this little bit. But actually, we're going to get into it right now because I just had a brain fart. So, and I don't know how to scroll up. I know. Tell me about it. I just had a brain fart out loud, and that was that. I don't know how to scroll up on here, but we got Sean's actually a bum whose job is on the nearest exit ramp holding a cardboard box.
You can't call somebody a bum and then misspell cardboard. I mean, that's really just a party foul right there.
That's antiseptic. Yeah, maybe a little bit, but the truth shall set you free. Antiseptic for sure. Laughing gnome, grumpy gnome. Gnome was mad I didn't bring him on today. Gnome, you can come on anytime, bro. I love you, man.
His audio never works, just FYI.
And he doesn't ask questions. I was with you for that thing, remember?
Oh, yeah, that's also true.
Trump wants all the drugs himself.
I've asked more questions on their show than they have, and they openly admit it.
That's hilarious. And finally, it's for the money, the oil, minerals, and for the control. It's all of that. It really is. And there's 17 trillion reasons in oil to understand this. There's 17 trillion of those, which are petrodollars, by the way.
I think the control part, while it's always about control and there's always an aspect of that, I think they are trying to stay away from, oh boy.
There's your girlfriend, buddy. Thanks for having the best looking guest ever on the show, Sean.
No, she's talking about when she was on at Thanksgiving. That's what she's talking about. It is always about control, but like in this aspect, I mean, I think they're trying to avoid the problems of the past. And they think that, that Venezuela is so corrupt that they can just, promote the vice president to president and pay off the right people. And the oil companies can go in and, do the oil stuff and mine for the minerals and all of that. Because I mean, they have zero plan, or they've said they have zero plan for anything about taking it over. They got two people. Like the whole rest of the government's still corrupt as hell, and they arrested a guy and his wife, right? Like everybody else is still corrupt. Like, I mean, we have bounties, like tens of millions of dollars of bounties on like all of their heads of state and everything. And like, they just kind of shrugged it off. Like, no, we've got a really good plan in place. We promoted the vice president. She was dictator light, so we're good. And so I think the control thing's a little bit less. I think it's all about a corporate money grab.
Well, it really is a corporate money grab, but there's way more to it than meets the eye. Now, You brought up the Venezuela vice president who just took over. But after Maduro was taken, there's a video of her literally out there saying that, and her name is Delcy Rodriguez, by the way. I had to look at that real quick in my notes. Delcy Rodriguez has taken Maduro's spot, but she was on camera, on video, talking about how this attack on Venezuela was from the Zionists. She openly said that out loud. Now, she's not wrong. And I'm going to tell you why she's not wrong. Yes, you are correct about it's about oil. Yes, you are correct. It's about silver. And it's mainly about, it's not mainly about that at all. Look, $17 trillion in oil. There's copious amounts of silver there, which, contrary to popular belief, the Trump administration only had a problem with electric cars, not electric trains or anything else like that, and conductors and whatever. And what do those things need to move? Silver, and a lot of it. And they have abundance of it. But let me break this down for you right now. And this is the real reason why they went to Venezuela. In the year 2000, there were 9 countries without a Rothschild central bank: Iraq, Libya, Afghanistan, Sudan, Venezuela. But there's more. There's more, and we'll get to that later. Venezuela didn't have the Rothschild central bank.
They were the only ones left that didn't have one.
No, there's more.
Of that 9, they were the only ones left.
No, there's a few more. There is a few more. And we'll get to that.
Of your list of 9, though, they were the only ones that didn't have one currently. They were the last one to fall.
Yeah. Yeah. So, they don't have that. And at the end of the day, look, guys, the Rothschild banks are in charge of every single central bank in the entire world. They are a $500 trillion family. $500 trillion. Okay. They're the ones who dictate every single war. They're the ones who dictate all the interest rates. They're the ones who dictate the money that's printed. They're the ones who dictate the world. The central banks are the puppet masters of all things. Noam says, in Rothschilds we trust. That's what it seems to be like right now. It's absolute chaos.
Did you see the tweet from the Rothschild kid that said, "Great job"?
Go figure. Of course.
Yeah, I was shocked.
Of course he did. But if you don't believe that these Rothschilds are the epitome of the central banking and the ones are the whole brains of the operation, look at the Federal Reserve. One of the Rothschilds was one of the starters of the Federal Reserve with the other 7 rival bankers. And as a matter of fact, there's a Rothschild and one of his family members who was married into the family is from London, I believe. It's been a long time since I read Creature, but it's something along those lines. But here we are. The central banks are running the show again. People are arguing whether it's right or wrong. There's literally people cheering this on, going, "Hey, this is great. We got him out of there." And they're not necessarily wrong because he had some dictator stuff going on. But he also did things like ban pornography and ban gay marriage, And I'm not saying the state should be involved in any of that stuff. But at the end of the day, those aren't necessarily morally, those aren't horrible things to be banned, right? Morally per se. But Adolf Hitler did the same thing. He was all against degeneracy. They went after him. As a matter of fact, he told the Rothschild banks to pound sand, and that's why they went over there. There's nothing new under the sun. This shit is so wild, dude. So wild to me. But at the end of the day, it's really not wild. Now, this is a new revelation my buddy sent to me just a little bit ago before the show. The White House posted on X just a couple hours ago. I've determined that for the good of our country, especially in these very troubled, dangerous times, our military budget for the year 2027 should not be $1 trillion, but rather $1.5 trillion. President Donald J. Trump. Now, They just spent $900 billion on a military budget, which is pretty much $1 trillion. That's just what they told us. It's probably more.
It was 965, if I remember.
Yeah. So, like, we're an indigent country. We have no money. None. We have none. We're broke. We don't have it. So they're going to devalue your dollar, my dollar, everybody in this chat's dollar, anybody who's listening's dollar. Like, they're devaluing your money to do this. And then on top of it, you have the president of the United States saying, hey, the Western Hemisphere is ours and it belongs to us and we have to protect it by all means possible. Now, have you noticed who he started talking about after he, quote unquote, conquered Venezuela? Who do you want to go after next?
Cuba.
Yeah. Guess who else is one of the 9 countries without a Rothschild bank? Oh, isn't that something? Isn't that something? Oh, and by the way, you guys, this just gets better with the Trump thing. And this is oh God, who posted this? I need glasses. The Resonance posted this. In response to the tanker seizure, Russia's threatening the United States with a missile strike on American ships. Current report, breaking. Australia calls on its citizens to leave Iranian territory immediately. Daily Iranian News post. The Russian army is urgently evacuating the staff of the Russian embassy along with their families in Israel and returning them to Russia. This is the third flight by Russia in the past 24 hours to evacuate its embassy in Israel. This pamphlets thing post, it has a bunch of stars by, I don't even know. China issued a final warning against the illegal blockade of Venezuela. PLA military updates. The Giant is on the move to protect 5 Russian flag tankers. What was once a little like operation, some would say it's not necessarily a war, it's an operation in Venezuela, is all of a sudden having global implications. Do you know why that is, dude? Do you know why this little country has so much global implications, bro?
I mean, besides the oil?
Well, yeah, it's a lot to do with that, but who's involved?
Well, I mean, I would guess what you're going to say, but.
No, it's not just the tiny hats, dude. China.
Well, dude. Yeah. I mean, BRICS, China,
China
oil.
Gets like over 60% of their oil from Venezuela. And then they get the rest of it from Iran. Okay. Now, I don't know if you saw this clip of a Glenn Beck. Are you familiar with Glenn Beck at all?
Sure.
Glenn says that this
is my favorite Yardberg.
Venezuela, or I'm sorry, Glenn Beck breaks it down, this Venezuela situation, and he actually makes it sound really good. He says, hey, China gets all their oil from them, and then they get it from Iran or whatever. And then, then if the U.S. seizes it all, they can't get it no more. And everything's supposed to be hunky-dory. Like, you're just going to attack China's way of, like, getting gas so they can run their country? What do you think's going to come of this, bro? Seriously. It's not tinfoil hat shit. You're literally taking away means of production, not only from one country, but from another country who is much larger than ours, who has a much larger military than ours. And you're just going to fuck with them, dude? And expect like nothing's going to come from that? Look, guys, this is bad. Like, what do you think, bro?
I'm halfway there with you. I think that so much of it is stuff that we don't see, that, they make these agreements, and that's why China gets their oil from who they get their oil from. And we make agreements, and that's why we do what we do. And I think it's all flexible. So I don't think you can paralyze China because of Venezuela's oil. Like, you're not going to slow down China. There's no way. Like, one of the big things in global politics is, China and America will be the last two standing. So, like, every other country would grind to a halt before China or the US would grind to a halt. So it's just, I don't think you can, like, just shoot out their kneecap and take them down.
Even though, like, you need oil for pretty much anything, especially if you're going to attack another country like Taiwan.
Well, they would have to make other deals and pay a little bit more. And, so, I mean, things would change, but, I don't think that, like, their whole, economy is based on Venezuelan oil.
No, it's not. But the means of, like, doing certain things, you have to have oil for. Your country has to have oil. You need oil for so many things. Like, people don't even realize it. Like, look, the shingles on your roof need oil. Like, stuff like that. Oil is literally in everything almost.
Yeah, the blacktop on your driveway, it's everything. But I don't think you're gonna take down a global power with, one energy thing. Like, they've got a much better energy infrastructure than us. Like, I don't think that that's gonna take down China.
Now, how do you feel about Trump saying the whole Western Hemisphere is ours? Because Greenland is next.
Yeah, I mean, I think he truly believes that, and I mean, I think it's just a power grab. Like William said in the chat. I think this is, you could either be diplomatic or you can be a bully, and I think they've just said that we're going to be the bully of the Western Hemisphere, and we're just going to, do our will to everyone, and if they don't comply, we'll send the military in.
Well, what does that sound like? Honestly, out loud, be your honest opinion. What does that sound like to you in layman's terms?
I mean, tyranny, bullying, it's awful. I mean, you've seen my account. I talk about it all the time.
I look at it as this is the start of the one world government.
Right. It's at least the Western Hemisphere version of it.
It's got to start somewhere. And we're the military superpower. Don't get me wrong. Just because the United States is broke and indigent doesn't mean their military isn't balls to the wall. Like, dude, one of my best friends is a retired Ranger from the military. And he has told me on multiple occasions, like, hey, numbers wise, there's a few other countries who have more numbers than us in the military. But actual, like, technology wise and, like, weapon wise, these people are decades behind us. Decades. So, I also think about that. And I'm like, well, you want to know what? That makes me feel better and maybe sleep a little better at night. But, like, at the end of the day, like, it really doesn't, because this shit's real, dude. Like, this guy's playing G.I. Jew, the real American Hebrew, all over the place in the name of Israel, dude. He's doing it for them. He's not doing this for America. He's bought and paid for. His donors say no more. You know what I'm saying? He's doing the will of other countries. He bombed Iran when he first, came to president. He bombed Yemen. He bombed, oh God, where else? Yemen, Syria, Somalia. You know what I'm saying? This isn't because of American policy. It's because his daddy, Benjamin Netanyahu, is telling him to do these things.
But
in the name of,
we've talked about this before. I don't agree. It's all the Jews. I think it's the elites, and I would throw Elon Musk into that category. I'd throw Bill Gates into that category. I mean, there's a lot of them out there, but, like, there's a lot concentrated in Israel. There's a lot concentrated in Silicon Valley. There's a lot concentrated in Miami. Like, so it's beyond just, one ethnic group or one religion or whatever, but it is the global elites 100%. And there's warring factions in the global elites, like the WEF and, all these factions. And when one takes power, it's going to be hell for the rest of us.
But who runs the WEF? black.
Right. But like, so, but, there's only so much money out there. As soon as they get what they want, they'll start turning on each other. And that's why there's different factions within even the globalists.
Right. But you don't see all this right now as a big like jump into the new world order, because I see it that way big time.
No, I agreed with you with that. I mean, it's basically Trump wants it to be the Western Hemisphere versus BRICS. Like that's what it's shaping up to be in 2026.
Now, and actually, I was on board with BRICS in the beginning, and I kind of still am, because we need some competition to the petrodollar. We really do. Like, I'm not mad at BRICS at all. Like a lot of sure people in the chat will be like, oh, you're just some sort of commie or whatever. No, the BRICS system is perfect because it makes the United States have to be competitive. It has to be, or they just join them. There's one of two choices. So they either get better or join them. I don't know where they are just now.
That was my original point, is that, they were hoping to, keep everybody subservient through the petrodollar. That starts to fall apart, and they say, okay, we'll just invade them then.
Which is what they do. That's what they did to Saddam Hussein and the George W. Bush era. That had nothing to do with, the weapons of mass destruction crap. It had everything to do with Saddam Hussein wanting to sell his oil in the dinar rather than the American dollar, and he got a healthy dose of democracy for it. You see it all the time. Look at Libya, dude. Libya left the banking system. Nope. Gaddafi, you got to die. We're taking over your country and putting our own people in. You know.
And he didn't have nukes.
Same thing with Adolf Hitler, though. Hey, it had nothing to do with Adolf Hitler killing all the Jewish people or whatever. It had everything to do with him telling the Rothschild banking system. As a matter of fact, he arrested Baron Rothschild and had him scrubbing floors with a toothbrush. That was a newspaper ad. You can look it up, dude. And that's why all of a sudden, the world police, the United States of America had to get involved. It had nothing to do with Pearl Harbor, man. So, just like Pearl Harbor and just like 9/11, what's going to be the next black swan event that's going to happen to lead us into another 20-year situation and trillions of dollars and thousands of lives, millions of lives lost?
Well, I think that's the interesting twist of all of this is they're not even putting out false flags. Like they're not even saying we're going in there because of this terrorist attack. Even their excuses, were half-assed. The fentanyl's coming from there or whatever. No, it's not. You've literally been telling us for years it's all coming from China through Mexico. Everybody knows that one. So I mean, they're not even putting out false flags. They're just saying, this is good for us and this is good for the people of Venezuela. And then they go in and now we've liberated Venezuela by promoting the vice dictator to dictator, and nothing else is going to change except for the American taxpayers are going to pay for the oil companies to go up in there and build the infrastructure. I mean, they're not even pretending. They're people are so oblivious and so hypnotized by the red hats or the floss dance or whatever it is that they're go team, no new wars, yay, new wars, yay. People are just completely lost.
It's a cult, bro. It really is a cult, man. All of it. If you really look at MAGA over the last 5 years per se, or even go back to 2016, dude. Well, no, not all the way back to 2016. We'll do 2020 just because. It's always been about Jeffrey Epstein. For them, we got to get the Epstein list out. And then it's always been, we need to cut the spending. It's getting to be too much. Oh my God, these Democrats and these wars and they Ukraine and oh my God, then Israel, oh my God, and then, the left is damn the man when it comes to Israel, free Palestine, blah, blah, blah. Which, by the way, for me, look, y'all, I choose bacon over Palestine and the Jews, period. I will always choose bacon. I don't care. But That was supposed to be a joke. Nobody laughed. Fuck. Anyways,
Kevin Bacon or Francis Bacon?
Like bacon, like pig bacon, like
okay.
Police officer bacon. But no, like, and then all of a sudden, Trump did everything that the MAGA was against in the first place. And they're all like, fuck yeah, dude. This is great, man. MAGA, MAGA, MAGA. We got to take down this dictator and everything's going to be great. Man.
So, like, I was making the point that this is like, you can make a sports analogy to this, right? I was a longtime baseball coach, so everything's a sports analogy to me. But like, you can make the sports analogy. You're a Tigers fan. I'm a Sox fan.
Yes.
Like, you know, the Sox have been terrible for, you know, pretty much most of the last 20 years. And, you know, I just sit there and I go, yeah, this really sucks. And I watch the games and it really sucks. But I'm not going to root for the Tigers. Like, I'm not going to root for the Yankees. I'm a Sox fan, right? So that's where I think MAGA is at right now. Like, they're just to the point where, you know, they're so convinced that, you know, Kamala and AOC and, you know, Ilhan Omar and Mondami are so much worse than Trump and Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell that they're like, you know, even on the show last night, like, you know, one of the contestants was like, I did the Trump-o-meter on 1 to huge. How do you think Trump is doing? And he gave Trump a 3. And then I said, why? And he had 3 reasons. I'm like, so a point for each reason. He freed Ross and, you know, whatever it was. And it's like, they're so convinced that the other side is so much worse that they're just like, I mean, it's like being stuck in an abusive relationship. Like they feel like, all right, I could be in the abusive relationship or I could be out on the street as a hooker. Like, all right, so the abusive relationship's better. Like, people are just, you know, we've broken the spirit of Americans, and they're just so put off by one side or the other that they're just going to put up with any nonsense from whichever jersey they're rooting for.
And you're right. Like, it's so crazy though, because I just never, well, no, that's not true. I have seen it before. It was just really wild to see that all these people that were against XYZ are all of a sudden cheering on XYZ. And like, you can't talk to them otherwise. Like, you can't talk to these people otherwise. They're just as insufferable, if not worse, than the left was during COVID, dude. You couldn't tell them nothing either. They wouldn't want to hear it. They didn't want to hear it, and they wouldn't have it. This is MAGA right now.
My buddy Kilburn's in the chat, and he said, you know, MAGA here if you need help understanding reality. And, you know, Kilburn, I got no problem with MAGA. You know, my friends that are MAGA, they love this country. They have great hopes for this country. They have a clear vision of what this country should be like. My problem is with Trump and his actual record. And, you know, I think a lot of people, including MAGA people, think Trump has been not only a failure, but a miserable failure to this point. Like, all of his major campaign promises, like we talked about Epstein, abolishing the income tax, no new wars. Like, I think he's been a miserable failure on all of that. So I have no problem with MAGA. Much love to my MAGA friends. Like, I just think that, like, if you look at it, his record is just absolutely terrible. And that he's standing next to Lindsey Graham is a huge slap in all of our faces.
Yes.
And that he's disparaging Massey. I mean, he's showing his true colors. He is controlled opposition at this point, in my opinion. And, like, I mean, he's just gone back on everything. And, you know, now he's going to go take the military to Greenland. I mean, if Kamala would have said that during the campaign, you guys would have had pitchforks. And so, like, I ask for just, you know, just evaluate the facts. Look at the votes in Congress. Look at what they're pushing and what they're not pushing. I think that, you know, I appreciate that you have hope and that you put your hope into someone. But if that someone is Trump, look at the results. It's not good.
Right. We got Terry Batts in the house, by the way, y'all. We got to give Terry a shout out because I love her long time. Terry, yes, they certainly do. Hear her more every single day. You know, Terry's amazing, by the way.
Did you see Terry jump out of a cake last night on the show?
No, I did not see that, but oh my gosh. Now, Kilburn, you're speaking my language, bro. You are speaking my language 100%. But will the Americans have the balls to do it? Most likely not.
I don't think we could. I don't think armed revolt is even an option at this point. I think, the drone technology and, how much of our daily lives are controlled by things that they can switch on and off at will. I mean, just look at Venezuela. Venezuela, when the people, stand up for something, they turn off the electricity, they turn off the internet, they turn off the water, they just shut everything down, and people just, wither back into their homes and hope that they turn stuff back on. Like I made that point to the Texas people. Like, I think the Texas people are cool people. I like that they're standing up for something. And yeah, and but like, Texas, if Texas tried to leave, the United States, the first thing they do is shut down their credit card access. They wouldn't be able to, like, buy anything with a credit card. The Wall Street banks would all turn against them. Like, it would be a major thing if they tried to leave without permission. And, so it's like, I just think that we're so controlled right now that if there was an armed revolt somewhere, without the military being involved, I think that they just, come, have those drones that set things on fire and just go down your street. And I think it would be over in a day.
Man, you're the opposite where I'm at. I think that, look,
you're gonna go out of the street with a 357 or something. Just
357, like, yeah, right, dude. Yeah, right. Well, that's like having a spatula and a dildo in your hand. You know what I'm saying? Like, a 357 ain't gonna do nothing. But
everything against the drones is a spatula and a dildo in your hand.
Well, like, people died over a 3% tax on tea.
Yeah, before drones, before central power grid, before you need an internet for everything. They'll shut down every business in your area. They'll shut down your electricity, your water, your air conditioning, your heat. Everything will go away like that.
I'm with Noam on this one. Americans are too soft. We can't do this. Like, we're at a point right now where, like, men are going to have to be men pretty soon. The way that the Trump administration is going right now, and I said this during the Biden administration, it never happened, but Biden didn't do nearly what Trump is doing right now when it comes to, like, military stuff and bombing people. Like, he had Ukraine, and that was about it. And then when Israel started, he was in for that just because he was an AIPAC bitch too. But, like, dude, at a certain point, men, listen, fellas, and I'm talking to myself too right now. Stop being a fat, lazy piece of shit and drinking every fucking night and get your ass in shape, dude. Get your ass in shape. That's what I'm telling you right now. The days are coming.
You're starting an exercise regimen with your followers?
No, I do my own that I deal with. Everybody needs to do their own.
It's the new show, Buds and Pilates.
It'd be like more like Buds in football practice. I do all my exercises that I did in football for 6 years now, just because those will gas you, dude. I'm talking, until you live two a days or 3 a days, you ain't ever worked out in your entire life. And I remember all that stuff, and that's what I do now. But no, seriously, fellas, we're at a point right now where you need to be men, stop getting hammered every day, get your fat ass off the couch. I'm talking to myself too, because I'm fat, and start working out. You want to know why? Because the days are coming where good men are going to have to do bad things. That's why.
I don't see it. I think the only possibility is getting out of the fiat system, going with, Xano or, some sort of privacy coin, getting your money out of fiat, agorism, just completely withdrawing from the system. We need tens of millions of people to do that and start doing it today. I've started doing that. I know a lot of people have started doing that. Like, I think that there's no armed revolt anymore. And I saw somebody said in the chat, I think it's me and William versus everybody in the chat at this point. So I appreciate
Probably.
you, William. But, you know, it was Kilburn said, whichever side does that can expect a million armed counter protests. There aren't two sides. Look at these congressional votes for these big things, and they're like near unanimous. The Patriot Act, things like that. Like, you know, they want these things. And even when they're not unanimous, it's just, you know, pretend opposition or whatever. They want all of this stuff. No matter which side is in power, these things always pass. The Patriot Act always gets reauthorized. All of these things continue to go. So it's like, it's not one side or the other. If there's armed revolt, they'll shut it down. And if it's in Minnesota, say, for example, they'll shut it down. And Tim Walz will say, like, we have no control because it was the federal government and we can't do anything about it, but we're mad as hell. And you know, we're not going to take it anymore or whatever. But it's just going to happen. They shut it all off. And then you're stuck there.
Yeah, but you just talked about cryptocurrency and all that stuff runs off energy and power. If they shut down the grid, your coins are shit. They're worth nothing. You have nothing.
But they won't shut down the grid over people using crypto. And people have generators. And I mean, you couldn't take that down as quickly as you could take down the power grid if Florida decided they were going to revolt against, you know, any sort of federal influence.
If they shut down the grid to the United States, there is no cryptos. There's no Bitcoins. There's no shit coins. There's no Xanos.
No, but I'm saying if we take back our money, you know, 1% at a time, there's not going to be any tipping point where they're going to say, we're going to shut down the entire power grid and anger the 75% that own no crypto at all. We're going to shut down the entire power grid because, you know, 25% are doing their business in crypto.
You know, that's why it's important. Like I'm a precious metals guy. I'm not a digital currency guy. There was a time I was, you know, but I'm a precious metal guy. You need tangibles. But at the end of the day, if shit really hits the fan, your precious metals are nothing. Your freaking, your cryptocurrencies, your coins are nothing. Your digital anything is nothing. What's going to matter is how much food you got, how much water you got, and how much ammo you got. Those are the kings of all currency when shit hits the fan and they shut down the grid. And don't think they won't. Don't think they won't, dude. Like you said, they're doing it in other countries. They did it in Venezuela. If you get the right dictator in the United States, and we almost pretty much have the right dictator there right now. Sorry, guys. Sorry if you're a Trumper. I'm not. Dude, the Trump administration is one of the most dangerous administrations. It is the most dangerous administration I've ever seen by far. And it's the most dangerous since Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was a son of a bitch. Okay. And he's got his face on the wall or on the mount, you know, the Mount Rushmore. What? Are you kidding me? The guy that hated black people, did not want whites integrating with them, and he wanted to deport the blacks back to Africa. And you're telling me he's the great emancipator? Like, that's Lincoln. Look up if you don't believe what I'm saying about Abraham Lincoln, please read one of the like 4 or 5 books that Thomas DiLorenzo wrote. Please. It'll all make sense then. And he brought the receipts. They're all in there. You know what I'm saying? This is not only has Trump reincorporated America like Lincoln, he's using the military to conquer third world shitholes that have things that we don't have here. And you want to call that capitalism, right? Like they want to say this is capitalism? No, that's not capitalism. That is communism. They are taking the means of distribution of anything. Like, don't get me wrong. Is it good that a dictator has gone out of the country? Of course it is. 100%. It is 100% great that dictators are gone. But it had nothing to do with what they're saying. And Trump already said we're here for the oil. There's $17 trillion in oil here. He left out the mineral part, the silver and whatever else there is out there. He left that part out. Go figure. The government don't want you to know about precious metals. They really don't. It's for them and them only. They don't want the general population buying this stuff or acquiring it or whatever it is. They want it for themselves, which makes gold and silver even more profitable. It really does. Look at where gold is.
I don't disagree with you. And, if I was laying out a platform, I would have included precious metals. But crypto is much more practical because, we purchase globally, not locally. And so, my buddy William, I'll probably get a little pushback on this, but, for as much as I love agorism, we purchase globally. So we need a solution for that as well. I mean, we'd be much better off if we were all local, but we aren't. And, they've run out of business all of our local butchers and grocery stores and farms. Like, it's just not where we're at right now. We need to reestablish that while we're reestablishing everything else. But at the same time, we need to be able to, make transactions and do them with our phones. And if we could do that with crypto instead of Wall Street banks, we'd be way better off.
I want to be a believer in crypto. I really do. Like, there was a time I kind of was. And then I kind of read up on what it was and learned something. I was a Bitcoin guy. I got into Bitcoin a little bit.
Well, yeah, Bitcoin's different than privacy coins for sure.
But, and Bitcoin ended up being a shit coin because BlackRock got involved in their blockchain. But then once I realized what is running the blockchains that run all this, crypto stuff, it's all AI, man. AI, computers run this stuff. Who's running the computers? The computers don't run themselves.
Right, but you're talking Bitcoin now. You're not talking smaller privacy coins. You're not talking about stable coins. You're talking about Bitcoin, which is just as bad as fiat.
No, it's all of it, though. It's all of it. All the blockchains are run by AI. All of them. All of them. It's all AI. And so AI is controlled by the government. I just don't see it as a decentralized money. I think it's going to be used against you guys. And I love you guys. This is why I say this stuff, man. I love you guys so much. Seriously. I don't want you to get caught with your pants down, dude. That's all I'm saying. You can do whatever you want with your money. I'm not a financial advisor, but I've done my due diligence and research to understand that, like, things can happen. And I know people personally that have all their chips in some of this stuff. I'm not saying you do or some of the people in this chat do, but I would never put all my chips into anything like that. I would never do that because of what could come. Like, look, Swift is already working on the CBDC. They have been for a long time. It's going to come out anytime. And it's going to be one of these coins that are out there, whether it's Bitcoin or Ethereum or XRP or whatever else is out there in the world. That's going to be one of those is going to be the one that's going to be the CBDC. It's like they're almost walking everybody into saying, hey, this is the way out, but really it's their way into taking everything you got. And that is terrifying. And I'm not trying to do whatever you want, man, to each their own. I'm just putting it out there like this might not be the best thing considering the current climate of politics and who's running internets and blockchains and all that. I have a hard time trusting that. I just do.
I have a hard time trusting literally everything. So, I mean, you're not wrong, but at the same time, if you're asking me to trust fiat or trust privacy coins, I'm 1,000 times in the privacy coins.
Nobody should ever trust fiat money, man. The fiat money is worthless. It really is worthless. Like, look at, I'll tell you guys something right now. I'll tell you a fun story. My family, who actually my dad's side of the family is from Dearborn, Michigan, way before what's going on there. We're not going to get into all that. Be good. But he rolls his eyes. My grandfather was a Dearborn cop in the 60s, but they bought a plot of land in rural Michigan and built a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath ranch on 12 acres for guess how much in the early 60s? Just guess how much.
How many acres?
12.
I'll go 12 grand.
Double.
24 grand?
25. Yeah. 25 grand for all that.
Not bad.
And it has nothing to do with things got more expensive. It had everything to do with your dollar being devalued. Now, if the dollar can be devalued, right? And we know that there's nefarious people in certain coins, what's to say that that can't happen again? I don't know, man. I don't know. Man.
But it's anything like, they can you brought up electricity, right? Like, they refuse to build nuclear plants, right? And they pretend like it's because of, 3 Mile Island or whatever their excuses are. No, it's just another way to control us. So like they can control anything, and they can, shift things from one pile into another pile. Energy is a way of controlling us. The money supply is a way of controlling us. Interest rates a way of controlling us. They can just, shift it around. And if we get mad about the interest rates, like all of a sudden the interest rates come down, but then they'll control us a different way, right? So it's
once the interest rates come down, comes a hyperinflation. You never win. There's no winning. There's no winning in this system. There never is. They win, we lose always.
Right. Always. And so precious metals and privacy coins getting out of the system, not participating monetarily in their system, is probably our best bet.
I'm all for a decentralized, like decentralization and nullification is my thing, bro. It has been since I started this podcast in 2022, man. I just want to make sure things say decentralized. You know what I'm saying? Like, and everybody, even the libertarian people, at some point will be like, come save me, daddy. Come save me. We saw it in 2024. Instead of,
I disagree with that. Like I see libertarians as a coalition of everybody from anarchists to minarchists, and we're all fighting the same system. And I don't think that, that they're part of the masses that believe in this centralized government controlling our country.
Then, and I'm going to be one of those guys. I'm not letting this go. It makes me so mad. We watched the decentralization people, the libertarian people, sell out to the state. We watched it happen in 2024, dude.
Right. But like, people are separate than the movement. Like if a faction is different than what the movement stands for, like there's nothing you can do about that. When something gets big enough, there's going to be disorder, right? Like, people like when they're talking about like LPNH and all that insanity, like it's like, well, the Republicans had David Duke, right? So like you get big enough, like there's going to be factions that are like, pretty far splintered off from what the original idea of the movement is and what the core values of the movement are. So it's like, I don't think you can just point out like, one state or one caucus, one group of people and say like, this is the movement. Somebody was saying that the other day, like, oh, well, the libertarians were all like the Republican light people. And I'm like, we nominated Chase. Like, there's nobody that's less Republican light than Chase is. Like, right. If the libertarians were Republican light, we would have nominated, somebody like one of the Koch brothers. Like the majority of the movement is very liberty based. There's factions that are goofy as hell, and go in my comments, and both sides hate me. So you'll see who they are. But like, you got whack jobs on the lib sock side, and you got whack jobs on the Republican light side, and that's what a movement is when it gets to a certain size.
But they went out of their way to endorse not their own candidate.
Yeah, I mean,
that was brutal. And this should bring in our
whole government has been co-opted by the elites. Like everything can be infiltrated, right? And the Libertarian Party's small enough that for $1 million you can fly people to Reno and take over the entire party.
I saw what you did there. I saw what you did there. That's actually really funny. And anybody who in the chat who understands knows we're not going to get into all that, but that's pretty funny. But my guy, if you're an outsider, right? If you're somebody who is like looking for something different, right? And then you're like, okay, I found this Libertarian Party. They seem pretty cool and they're against the system or whatever. And then all of a sudden they endorse the guy that you're not supposed to endorse or vote for. What are you supposed to think? Like, that's a huge turnoff. Like, that's my biggest thing is like, yeah, I know retards are going to do retarded things. I understand that. I do. But from an outsider looking in, from somebody who was like, hey, man, I'm going to come into this movement and we're going to do something different. And then the party just does the same thing that everybody else does. How are you supposed to get outsiders in? Because they're not going to come here. They'd be like, well, you just sold out, dude. You're just Republicans who smoke weed or Democrats who like guns or whatever it is, dude. And that was my biggest thing. That's my biggest, most hugest things. I understand that people are people and they're going to cave to, everybody, whether, you're a libertarian or an anarchist who calls himself an individualist or not. If the masses are pushing you to say something, you're probably going to fall into that, which makes it a collective. One of the biggest problems with the Libertarian Party is you're telling people they're a bunch of individuals who are being asked to join a collective of individuals who has multiple different angles on how to look things, dude. Like the Libertarian Party, it's a joke. It's an inside joke. Oh, they're a bunch of autists, dude. Yeah, that's true. It's very true. You know what? Like, you can't. That's going to take a lot to come back from the outsiders. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just, I don't see it, dude. I'm not seeing it, man. I think the libertarians should adopt Konkin's version of libertarianism, which is agorism. I am an anarchist. I'm not mad at agorists. I ain't mad at that at all. But if you read the New Libertarian Manifesto by Samuel L. Konkin, that is a much better idea of libertarianism than what we have right now. Because he understood, he said straight up, state parties, political parties don't work. It never works. He was on point. It doesn't work. Look at the Democrats right now. They're a mess. Look at the Republicans right now. They're a mess. Look at the Libertarians right now. They're a mess. Like, have you ever read Konkin? Have you ever read the New Libertarian Manifesto?
Yeah, I love Konkin.
Dude, like, he's on point with that. His version of libertarianism is by far, in my opinion, which doesn't matter. Opinions are like assholes. We all have one. But, like, that is the libertarianism that they should be aiming for, not whatever they're trying to do or have been doing. Like, look, it's always been for 50 years. It's about the messaging. It's about the messaging. It's about the messaging. Dude, most of Americans don't even know what libertarianism. They're clueless. So, like, the message,
right, but like where we differ is that I'm an incrementalist, and Amity and I have both given this example multiple times. But if there's something up for vote in your city about taxes going up or taxes going down, show up and vote taxes down, right? So, like, we're not going to have the anarchist or the ANCAP utopia. Like, Ancapistan is not coming probably in my lifetime, and it's for sure not coming in 2026. No. So, like, I'm an incrementalist. Like, you and I were arguing about voting one day online, and I said, it might not matter, but dude, I drive 10 miles out of my way to go give those people the finger. And so me going in and voting for one thing and going NOTA on all the rest of it, I feel like it was a good use of the 10 minutes it took me to give them the finger. So, like, I just think it's incrementalism because we're not getting to the utopic state anytime soon. So, and, obviously I'm about to do a bunch of libertarian stuff. So like I'm all in with my libertarian brothers and sisters. And, I think that we're headed in the right direction. I think that Nikayla and Dar and everybody else are doing an amazing job right now. I'm really excited about, who's running for chair. I'm really excited about what's going on in different states. We've had certain states that are just off the charts with, people running and success in their states, and 2/3 of libertarian candidates won in the most recent election. And I think it's just absolutely amazing that we're having that kind of success. Huh?
Most of them were in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is very libertarian. Like, I don't know why New Hampshire thinks they're the most libertarian, because Pennsylvania elects libertarians like as libertarians for real. They do it. They've been doing it for years now. I feel like
I did all those spaces. Terry and I did 125 spaces last year, I guess 2024 at this point. And like, we would do spaces and we'd have people come in. I had a guy one time come in and say, you're talking about libertarianism. That's too close to liberal. You should change the name. And I'd be like, dude, I didn't invent this. This is like 50 years old, man. Like, I didn't invent the name. It's based on liberty. It's not based on liberal, he thought it was like libertarian, liberal, like Democrat, right? Like, so like we have a lot of education to do, and it starts locally. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, annoy people at a cocktail party, do what you got to do. But if I can throw the plug in here, we're going to be out at all the state conventions. We've got 5 or 6 plans so far. We're doing Georgia in like 10 days. And so we're doing the live show of Are You Smarter Than a Politician at the Georgia convention. Another great way to get people involved. And I think we do a good job of talking about liberty and liberty issues in a fun way, interaction, getting people involved and getting audience feedback. So if you're interested at all, come out to the conventions. We've got, Georgia, like I said, next week, California, Florida, and Virginia in February, North Carolina in March, Texas in April. And then we're also going to be at the national convention over Memorial Day weekend. We're also talking to a couple other states. So we might even be in more places than just that. And so, like, I'm black pilled on all the government stuff. I'm definitely not black pilled on the libertarian movement. I think that there's amazing people doing amazing things out there. And, I'm very blessed to be part of it, and, love the people that are putting in all the hard work out there.
I like it. I like it. Now, let's talk about your show for a minute, man, because you're doing some cool shit, man. I've been on your show a few times. I actually won the last time I was on. I didn't get my points nuked by Zach or whoever else did it the other time. But I did win last time. That was cool. But like, you do a show at Are You Smarter Than a Politician? It's really fun. Like, it's absolutely hilarious.
Thank you.
And you have people, you usually have 3 guests on, and you pick their brain about certain topics. Like, I'll run it down for everybody. So when Terry Batts gets in your DMs and was like, hey, do you want to come on the show? And I say, hell yeah. And she said, okay, give me 3 things that are important to you. And she does. And I give her the 3 things. And those questions that you ask are usually, those 3 things, except the last time I tried to not do the one thing and you threw a question out there where I had to do the one thing, but I didn't do the one thing because I was trying to be nice. But yeah, which is probably why I won, actually. But like, oh my God, we just missed it. I just had 420 views, 420, baby. Anyways, but dude, your show is awesome. What even made you come up with that? Like, how does that even, like, Are You Smarter Than a Politician? We were just sitting down there one day, just, this is a good idea, or did somebody pitch it to you, or like what?
No, so like I mentioned that Terry and I did all those spaces, and just getting feedback from people and learning more about what people know and what they don't know, and then just interacting with people and the thing I learned from Spaces is the most important thing is people like telling you what their opinion is more than they like hearing what your opinion is. And so, I really was thinking about that. And then I did some of the presidential debates. I interviewed a bunch of the presidential candidates from the Libertarian Party. And then I did a presidential candidate.
You're in trouble, bro. That's
oh, yeah. Yeah, here we go.
Anyways.
Yeah. So I did a presidential debate, and it was Lars Mapstead, Chase Oliver, and Dr. Charles Boulay. And, I'd watched them debate like all these times at the different state conventions. And I basically could answer the questions that I was writing in their voice while I was writing them. And I was like, all right, so this is going to be boring. How do I do it differently? And that's where the lightning round came from. So I asked all of them, I ended up asking them 72 questions in 11 minutes that were yes or no questions. And people loved it, right? So then I started like making it a part of my interviews where I would do this kind of rapid fire thing. And I thought it was interesting because, they had these stump speeches that were well rehearsed, and, they're thoughtful, intelligent guys with, have been successful in life and made some money. And so like, they're obviously not dopes, right? But I figured, how do I get them away from the stump speech? And I came up with the idea of this rapid fire lightning round kind of thing. And I thought, not only will I get an answer from them, but we'll get to see them make a decision in real time. And so we'll see like how convicted are they to their beliefs, where if I ask them a very specific yes or no question, do they answer yes? Do they answer no? Or do they waffle and say, well, maybe this, maybe that? And so like, I figured we were getting a different view of, are they good under pressure? How do they process information? Like something totally different than, is taxation theft? And then they give a 2-minute stump speech about why taxation is theft, right? So that's, part of where it came from. And then I started doing interviews with, other candidates, my buddy Ryan Woodcraft, our buddy Michael White. We had a bunch of people on that were just, awesome candidates. And like, Michael White's another one, right? Like we've all heard Michael White talk a million places. He's like one of the best speakers in our movement, right?
He's actually a really good friend of mine. He's awesome. We talk daily.
He's an amazing guy. Guy. Get him to come on the show. Like he's given us the Heisman on coming on the show. So we got to get him on the show. But no, but he's just absolutely amazing, a great messenger, right? And so I did the same thing with him, where I did like, I think at that point, like I came up with the game I call Blank the Government, where it's a fill in the blank, right? So the Blank the Government one was like, you ask them a question and they do, the Kamala thing where she says, Kamala, how will you fix the economy? And Kamala will say, well, I was born a middle-class child, and on the weekends people mowed their lawn, and they don't answer the question, right? So like my fill in the blank idea is, the first thing I would do if I was elected is blank. And, hopefully you get to the meat of it.
You see that?
There we go. There we go. He's an awesome guy. Right? He'd be so fun. So we got to get you on with him. That would be fun to pit you guys against each other.
Yeah, dude, you want to know what, man? I'll tell you what. Over the years, there's been a lot of people who really made some noise in the liberty movement and some who didn't, but were
so you're saying it's useful that there's guys like Michael White out there shaking it up.
Well, that's the thing. Yes. But like, here's the catch, bro. Like, you had your Dave Smiths out there. You had your Spike Cohens. And actually, I'm going to put it out there right now. Spike Cohen was the absolute voice of the Libertarian Party. He was 100%. I wish he still was, but he's doing much better things with You Are the Power. But then all of a sudden, the Mises Caucus took over, and it was all about Dave Smith. Dave Smith this, Dave Smith that, blah, blah, blah. And don't get me wrong, Dave Smith makes some good points, and he's all right. He ain't Spike Cohen, though, dude. He's not. Nobody holds a torch to Spike Cohen. When it comes to the Libertarian Party, this is a bold statement, and I don't care. Spike Cohen is the Libertarian Party, 100%. There was nobody better. There was no better messenger. He was absolutely amazing about everything. And it was sad to watch him kind of get shunned away when Mises took over, just to get some other guy to take over and spew off opinions that were spilled to him by other people. I'll leave that alone, but whatever. Spike's the man, period.
Yeah. So, I mean, back to the game show though, like, just like being able to ask people questions in a format where you get an actual answer. And then, we get to the meat of it quicker, and then we can talk about, do we agree? Do we disagree? And so I got through the whole election cycle and I was just burnt out. Like, I'm a big Chase supporter. I think Chase is another amazing voice in the liberty movement. I think that he was very polished, did great in the debates. I think he's doing amazing work with, the anti-war stuff that he's doing, the immigration stuff that he's doing now. He's a friend of mine. I really admire him. And, so like, I got through the whole cycle and I was just burnt out, right? Like, I mean, we were getting it from, our own party. We were getting it from the left. We were getting it from the right. We were just getting slammed everywhere. So I get to the end of it. And like, I think I just shut off my ex for like a month and, I was just burnt out. And so, my confidants are, Terry Batts and Casey Rasmussen, amazing friends of mine, totally have my back, just amazing
Good
people. And, so I called them and I said, all right, crazy idea. Instead of like, doing the interviews and doing the lightning round, doing the blank the government, what about if I did it as a game show? And, whatever the original idea of it was, I pitched it to them and they were like, you know what? Not a crazy idea. I actually could see this. Right. And so it started off as a kind of a joke, right? With my buddies, like Joe Hanoush, scientific libertarian, David Mosgrib, Chris Townsend, just my buddies, like doing like this, you aren't a real libertarian, where the idea was like, they'd come on and I would tell them they're not a real libertarian. They would lose. Like that was the original kind of iteration of this, where I would just talk smack and whatever. And then it evolved and we started getting MAGA people reaching out to us and others that wanted to come on and talk about it. And like, so then we're like, all right, well, we got to have like, a name that's not libertarian. And so I came up with, Are You Smarter Than a Politician? And, we went from, 50 viewers to 100 viewers to 500 viewers. And I think our best show ever was Spike Cohen, Stephen Nikela, and Matt Johnson at the Libertarian Party of Florida convention, where we did our first live show ever. And live, I think we had 48,000 people. And then overall, I think we ended up with like 64,000 people that viewed it. And I mean, it was chaos. The audience was lit. I mean, it was just so much fun. And that led to us doing this tour this year, where we're going to all these different states. And, so it's a lot of fun. And I always tell people, like, I see myself as like the guy that's at the door of the tent, and I want to welcome people in. And then when I welcome them in, if they have questions, I'll send them to Chase or Michael White or Dave DeCamp or, whoever's the best to answer the question about like what they want to know more about. Like, I don't want to be the controller of the information. I don't want to be the one that's just got my point of view. It's my way or the highway. I want people to come in and explore liberty and talk about these ideas, meet cool people, make friends, be part of this amazing community and see, do they want to take part in it? Do they want to run for office? Do they want to help somebody else? Do they want to give financial support? Do they want to be an agorist? Do they want to, trade bullets for, beef or whatever? Like, where do you want to be in this community? Right. Like, I don't want to control that. I just want to bring people in and teach them about liberty from my friends who are some of the most amazing people. And that was the one asset I had, was my friends, yourself included, are just like the most amazing messengers of liberty. And I'm like, I can introduce you to some amazing people. Let me do that through my show. And it's been absolutely an amazing ride and so much fun. We've done 68 shows. We've had I think we're getting close to 1 million viewers overall, and it's just been a ton of fun.
Now, real quick, I want you to talk about your show a little bit more. Dude, David Bowie sounds like he's going to murder somebody upstairs, and I need to check on it real quick. So please tell people more about your show. I'll be back in 2 seconds, dude. Seriously. Oh my
no
God.
worries.
Oh my gosh. Oh, shit.
Oh my God. I think I said everything I had to say there. So if the dog was going to murder somebody, that would have been a good time to do it then. But so Are You Smarter Than a Politician? It's on Tuesdays and Fridays, 8 p.m. Eastern. It's a satirical game show where we ask liberty-based questions of 3 different contestants. And the unique part of it is the chat controls the score. And so they can give points or take away points based on whether they like people's answers. And so it's a lot of fun. The chat gets really involved, and they actually add so much to the value of the show where we get new opinions from people. Like they're coming at it from different points of view. William was in here and he comes in and he adds agorist stuff. And, we have MAGA friends that come in and they, add their take from Making America Great Again. And we get so many different opinions, and people get to look at them and say whether they like it or not. And one of the jokes I like to make about it is, Sean, I feel like you weren't listening to me, but I'll continue. But one of my jokes I like to make about it is it's almost like Liberty speed dating, where you get to meet 3 of my friends and you get to hear a bunch of their little clips on what they think about stuff. And you can decide, do you want to follow them? Do you want to watch their show? Do you want to subscribe to them and financially support them? You get to hear from all these great people. And I love seeing, we'll do a show with somebody and I'll be in their chat for their next show, and I'll see a bunch of my friends come in and support that person. So I feel like we're doing a good job with the outreach.
I dig it, dude. Sorry about that, guys. Mrs. Buds actually had it. She's like, go back downstairs. I didn't realize she was home. So great. Cool.
I'm glad you're supervised as well as the dogs.
Well, yeah. Well, I didn't know she was home from work already. I didn't realize what time it was. Time flies when you're having fun. But I'm so. Did you guys even hear that? All of a sudden, David Bowie's 105 pounds, and all of a sudden I hear I got wood floors above me. I heard thud, and then roar. And I was like, shit, who's home?
No, I couldn't hear it at all.
Oh God. Then I guess I have good insulation or something going on in here. I don't really know. But David Bowie freaked out, and that's what he does. And I love him long time. You should have, on New Year's Eve, I'll tell you a funny story about David Bowie. David Bowie is my 105-pound pit bull, by the way, you guys, just so you know. My wife and I had gone to bed. We went to bed early. We didn't make it for the ball to drop or anything like that, dude. We're old people. We go to bed. About 2 a.m., David Bowie freaks out, man, raging. And he's a big baby, but he has the most ferocious bark ever. Dude, I grabbed my gun, man. Freaking, I'm ready to party. What's going on out here? You know what he was freaking out about? Somebody is outside scraping their windows, getting the ice off their windows. That's what all that was about. And I'm standing in my underwear with my gun in my living room going, what the hell, man? You know what I'm saying?
So just a regular Tuesday for you.
Pretty much. I mean, I live in Detroit. These things do happen. But yeah, I'm thinking
I blacked out. I think I said this at the beginning of the show. I blacked out all of New Year's Eve. I don't remember any of our pictures or the different tuxedo changes that we did. So yeah, I didn't hear any of that.
I love it, man. But dude, so look, we're in a place now where though we have been as men emasculated for well over a decade now, man. It's always, these feminists saying they
I don't know, speak for yourself on this one, but go ahead. Continue on.
You don't hear all these women out there saying, oh, we don't need men and we don't, we can do it all on our own and stuff like that. You don't hear that?
I mean, but I mean, to be emasculated, would have to accept that you're emasculated. And yeah, I think everybody that deals with me knows that I don't feel emasculated at all.
Well, no, but I don't feel that way either. But as a society, they have emasculated men. And we're at a place now where like society is so run down and just not, you know, I, I got to be careful with my words, I guess. They've taken our roles away from us, I guess. Like as men, we're supposed to lead. That's our job. That is what we do. We're supposed to be strong. We're supposed to be not only strong, but strong-willed. We have to be, thinking on our toes. We have to be ready to protect by all means necessary. And it seems like society has taken a lot of that away from us. And we really, 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 really need to get back there because, ladies, I don't know what to tell you, but if shit really does hit the fan like I think it is, even though Free doesn't think it's going to happen, you're going to want a man at the house to protect you. I don't know what to tell you. Like you're going to want a man to lead your home. And I'm not saying like ladies go do the dishes and cook and clean and stuff like that. Like, and I understand the Bible says to honor your husbands, ladies, or whatever, but you also have to give the ladies something to honor. Right.
Well, right. I mean, I think I'm with my MAGA friends on this one where, they talk a lot about they're trying to destroy the family unit. And
yes.
So I think that this is, a symptom of that problem where they want the family unit destroyed. And it's, back to what William was saying earlier, I think it's all about control, right? And so if you destroy the family unit, that's the closest organization to all of us, right? And so
Right.
if you can disrupt that and create chaos in the family unit, you could destroy a person's life. I've been through a divorce. Like, I mean, it's the worst thing that you can go through, right? And so if you can take somebody's kids, whether it's through indoctrination or through what Spike's dealing with You Are the Power, where CPS is going in and actually taking the kids because they have brittle bone disease or something like that, and they're claiming abuse. Like, I mean, they just want to destroy the family unit.
And that's exactly what they've done. This is where we're at. I think it's over 60% now of marriages end up in divorce. Over 60%. That's crazy. We're talking, it's getting close to like 2/3 of society is divorced. Now, a lot of times there's kids in play and stuff like that. You're taking away the family structure the way it's supposed to be met. There needs to be a mother. There needs to be a father. There needs to be some sort of balance in the home that, there should be a protector. There needs to be a provider. There needs to be a, whatever maybe. There needs to be a nurturer. There needs to be somebody who can help with homework if you have kids. And so I didn't bring children into this world, so I don't know a lot about that stuff. But like what I do know is that they're trying to cancel. You're right. They're canceling the family by axing the man out. And then you have these fake feminists that if the feminists from the 60s and 70s were hearing these broads today, the OG feminists would slap the shit out of these new feminists. I swear to God, they would. They really, really would, because it had nothing to do with what they're talking about now.
I have no problem with the feminist movement other than like giving something to people that they don't deserve. I like an empowered woman. I mean, I hang out with Terry and Amity all the time,
Right.
and get my butt kicked. So like, I have no problem with a powerful woman, but like, I think the difference being they've conned people into putting off a family for too long until it becomes medically near impossible, and they've really brainwashed people to the point where, again, it's another factor that's destroying the family, right? So like, I have no problem if a woman wants to do a man's job, or if they want to have a career, or if they care more about something like that instead of family. Like, I have no problem with all of that. What I do have a problem with is when they're like creating a pipeline that's going to brainwash women to, you'd rather have a career in corporate America than, you know, bring children into the world.
Which is what's happening right now. This is what I'm getting at. And I see all these videos. Like I've said, I've had a lot of time on my hands because I've been off work because of the time of the year. I paint houses. I'm in Michigan. December and January suck. But, you know, the fact of the matter is I look at these things and I see a lot of these videos, right, of these women now who are in their early 30s, mid 30s. They're married. They don't have children. And they're saying, where's all the good men at? Look, lady, you probably could have had the good man, but instead you went and partied and messed around for the last decade, you know, and got ran through like an Amtrak train. And the good guys have already found somebody. They found a good girl to wife up and make babies with, dude. So, like, what you're complaining about is your own fault because you made the decision to go do your thing, per se. And now all of a sudden you want to settle down. Like, nobody wants that. Like, most normal men don't want a girl who's been ran through by the whole neighborhood. You know what I'm saying?
You know, I think though it goes both ways, right? Like, the economy is so bad and it's so hard to buy a house and things like that. I don't think men are interested in settling down either. So I think that we're, you know, creating that problem on both sides. And by we, I mean the federal government and, you know, centralized power. I don't think it's like a sex thing. I don't think it's a, you know, a kid thing. I think it's just, you know, we've made it so hard for people to feel financially secure that they're just like, you know, I can't even afford to, you know, some of these young people are saying I can't even afford to date, let alone have a child. And
which isn't
I mean,
wrong.
you know, it's like, you know, I remember reading back when my kids were younger that it was like $250,000 to raise a kid. You know, I mean, what's that number in 2026? Like, I mean, is it $1 million to raise a kid? You know,
I'll
like,
tell you what,
I mean,
I did my due diligence in research, right? And I found that if you are married with, you know, and have a couple of kids in your household, in order to be just comfortable, your household needs to be bringing in at least $150,000 to $175,000 a year.
and that's probably in middle America. I mean, that's like,
this is
forget about Boston and San Francisco and Miami. And
this is crazy. And so without kids, you probably need to make roughly, say, $130,000, $140,000 a year without kids, just to get by, you know. And then you got, what if you have a bigger family or a smaller family? Or what if you're living by yourself? What if you're a single person and you need to afford, say, a mortgage? We'll call the mortgage $1,500. Okay, you need a $1,500 mortgage, you know, and plus all your other bills, car payments, whatever it may be. If you're a single person by yourself, you need, with no kids, we're not talking about kids, child support, anything like that, dude. You should probably be bringing in about $75,000 a year to be comfortable. This is where we're at in America right now. Now, are some areas different than others? Sure. You can go to rural Michigan and probably find yourself a single wide trailer on some property for next to nothing. Sure. You got no neighbors, you got no schools, you got no nothing, right? That's not what families are looking for. The United States,
jobs. No jobs too. No jobs being the big one, right?
You're talking like, okay, so let's put Upper Peninsula Michigan into perspective. Are really anything north of Flint, Michigan, industry and commerce and all that go?
And well, I think that's why they've pressured so many of these companies to bring people back into the office, because when people could work remotely, now those properties become very attractive, right? And so, like, now that they're pulling people back into the offices, now you've got to live in, you know, Boston or Chicago or San Francisco and pay those rents. And, you know, the people that are donating to these campaigns don't want people to work remotely and not like, live in the city and pay for city services and, pay high rents and, pay for parking spaces and pay double for gas. And, so every industry benefits from these, major cities, right? So why would they want people working remotely from the Upper Peninsula?
Right. And then if you want to find a job in an Upper Peninsula, good luck. You're not going to find one. You might get one at a gas station. There might be a sawmill or two you can do up there, but that's all tourists, dude. So unless you own the cheap motel or the hotel or whatever it is up there, you ain't making no money. That's just the way it is. But this is happening because of the endless money supply of the Federal Reserve. Now, when I said I would bring something back, just to piss you guys right off, and I've talked about this before, what the Minnesota daycares were doing.
Wait, hold on. Let me jump in just for 1 second.
Yeah.
Because like I've got a Florida perspective where like now that they've called these people back, there's this glut of houses for sale in Florida, right? And we were talking about control earlier. Yes. And I said they can control energy, they can control the money supply, they can control interest rates, right? So when they call all these people back and now there's a glut of houses for sale, right? Now people will never do that again, right? They'll say, well, next pandemic or whatever, I'm not going to move to Florida because they're going to call me back, right? And so that's another way they control people. And, it's playing out big time here in Florida now. And it's just another way where they just, yank the rug out from under you. And all of a sudden your financial life is just chaos, right? And so they can control you in all of these ways. So, but go ahead with the Federal Reserve.
The Federal Reserve does the exact same thing that the Somali daycares were doing in Minnesota. They open stagnant businesses that they could print money to that aren't businesses at all. And then they can turn around and claim a loss on it on their taxes. Because as a business owner, if you own a business, you're allowed to take a loss for 3 years before you show a gain or you close your doors.
Or if you're Amazon, you can, do a loss for, a decade or whatever they did. So
I don't know how that worked. I really don't, because I own my business and I am literally legally only allowed to claim a loss for 3 years.
Well, you're a small business. You're not, a
big
corporation with lobbyists.
No, correct. And I don't have lobby money. Like, I'm just a guy who paints houses, right? That's what I do in real life. I paint houses. But like, they print all this money out to these stagnant businesses, which devalues your dollar even more, which is why it costs $150,000 to $175,000 a year to raise a household with 2 children, just to be comfortable. We're talking just to be comfortable. Like if you need tires on your car or your furnace goes out or whatever that means. Dude, over 60% of Americans can't even handle that right now. If they needed tires on their car or they needed a furnace or they needed something in their house done,
or their battery, their Tesla goes out,
they're putting that on credit, dude. They don't have it. There's no money. They don't have it because they go and slave to the grind every day. Like, and don't get me wrong, there's winners and there's losers. Like, you kind of make your own bed, but at the end of the day, like, the bed doesn't have to be so messy if it weren't for the Federal Reserve, if you feel me. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I mean, there's the Federal Reserve and then there's the centralized government, right? So like one of the examples I like to use is Mike Johnson went to Trump and lobbied for the rice industry of Louisiana. And so I wrote a post about it and I'm like, how is it cheaper to send rice from 9,000 miles away and pay for it to be shipped and all of the things that go into it than to buy rice from America, right? It's a heavy product. It's a cheap product. It'd be the absolute worst product that you'd want to ship worldwide. And it's the government, right? Because to grow rice, the sun's free, the seeds are free, the dirt's free,
The water's
everything's free.
It goes
The
in the
water's
water.
free. The water's free. It's all free except for government regulation, taxes, labor laws, compliance. All of those things are what makes rice cheaper to send 9,000 miles from Asia than to just get from the United States, right? And the housing market's another example of that. You look at like what goes into a house, and most of it is natural, right? You know,
Right.
wood and nails and all of these things. Like they're not like you're not buying chips for stuff and things that like are high tech that you know you need a factory and you need automation and you need all these things. A house like still should cost, you know, in the tens of thousands of dollars, not in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy new, right? And so
Right.
what's inflated the cost of housing? The government has.
Well, kind of like, why would you bail out Argentinian beef for $40 billion to bail out your own farmers for $12 billion? That doesn't make any sense. But that's why it costs $150,000 to $175,000 a year to raise a family comfortably. That's
I
why.
thought you were gonna I thought you were gonna say to go out on one date because that's what it cost in Florida to go out on a date.
Dude, I'll tell you what, bro. My wife and I are brunchers. We're kind of day drinkers. We're not big night owls and stuff like that because we go to bed. We go to bed. We're up very early. We get up and work out and we go to work and stuff like that. But like, dude, the bailouts and the stuff that you're talking about right now, there's another reason why it costs so much money. Like, seriously, the president of the United States just bailed out the quote unquote Austrian economist guy for his beef. Oh, and it was some people want to sell it as a currency swap. A currency swap. No, dude. You just bought beef from another country where, bro, we got fucking Texas. We got the plain states with all the cows you'll ever need, dude, and all the beef you'll ever need. So now not only did they waste our money going to Argentina, they bailed out the American farmers they didn't need to bail out in the first place. This is not a fun situation to be in right now. This is, central banking, centralized power, as you would say, is the epitome of evil, period. Like it's the great Satan of all things. This is why we're at where we're at. This is why my grandparents bought property in the 60s and built a 4-bed, 2.5-bath house on 12 acres for $25,000 in the 60s. I don't even know what that's going to sell for. My grandmother, God, I love her so much. She's on her way out, man. She's 90 and not doing so good. But when she goes, that house and that property is going to be worth way more than 25,000. The property alone is probably worth $500,000.
So one thing when I was getting ready for tonight, one of the things I was looking at, we were talking about the daycares and all that nonsense, right? And so one of the things I was looking at is the federal government's budget is like over $7 trillion, right? And there's 330 million Americans, right? So I was just like, what if they just took all that money and redistributed it? Like, what would that look like? Because like we're paying for the child care, we're paying, all these things that are, supposedly like humanitarian things that none of us are really against. Like we're not against helping people. And, so I'm like, what would that really look like? Right. And so if we took every dollar that the federal government spent and just redistributed it to every American, from your grandma all the way down to a newborn infant, right? Every single American, they'd all get $22,000 a year. So like all of this stuff, like all of this, like where's the waste? Where's the grift? Like nobody's getting $22,000 worth of services. If you got a family of 5 with 2 working parents, like there's no way you're getting like over $100,000 of benefits from your hard work and your taxes and them borrowing money in your name. Like it's so insane. And like, people just have their eyes closed to all of it and they're not doing the math and saying like $7.5 trillion. That sounds like a lot of money. Like, where's that actually going?
They don't know where it's going. That's the problem. The American, okay, people like you and I know where it's going. A lot of people in this chat know where it's going. The average American has no clue where it's going. They think that they're paying for a service that they're never going to receive. They think the government's going to take care of them. They think that, they're going to do the right thing with the money. And Lars Mapp said it best when he was running for president last year or 2 years ago. I'm sorry now. Wow, time flies. But anyways, he would always ask people, do you think your tax money is being spent efficiently? And a vast majority of the people are going to say no right now, because a lot of people are waking up, whether it's Democrat or Republican, when it comes to tax money. Nobody is happy about their taxes right now. Nobody is happy where it's going. I don't care what side of the fence you're on. Libertarians say taxation stuff, there should be no taxes, and they're not wrong. 100%. They're 100% right. But the people on the left and the right who believe that taxation is some way to, have a civilized society are starting to go, wait a minute here. The society isn't civilized. There's no representation, and taxation without representation is a thing, And so people are going, okay, wait a minute. Why is the weight not being evened out here? Like, I don't know how else to explain it. Like, most of the American people are like, why is it like this? And they're going, okay, well, and then you see the big tax revolt thing, oh my God, the Pentagon, failed its 8th audit in a row, which is probably way more than 8, to be quite honest with you.
Oh, it's way more than 8. They failed 8 under the current system.
Yeah.
But they failed for like 2 decades before that. So it's actually like 20 something or 30 something. Terry knows.
Americans are waking up to this because we have access to information now. And they're going, wait a minute. If these guys can do whatever they want, why are we doing this? Why are we paying this? We're not getting what we need. There's no services. There's no nothing. And even some of the socialists are going, hey, dude, like, we pay all this money in taxes. Where's my services? I'll tell you where your services go, to the military industrial complex. That's quite obvious, man. Yeah. If like for all the leftists who say, well, what about my free healthcare, man? My free healthcare. Dude, your free healthcare is in the military industrial complex. That's where it is.
Well, here. I got in trouble with people one time because I jokingly said, at this point, I'm almost in favor of UBI because at least we'd get some money back. It's just like, it's so screwed up that, like, I'll take anything back. Like, call it whatever you want to call it. Call it, you're an a-hole. Here's your check. Like, call it whatever you want to call it. I'll take any money back from them whatsoever, because I mean, it's just asinine. It's like, I always use the rule of thumb that, like, there's really only about 100 million people in the United States that actually pay a sizable amount of federal tax, right? And so every $1 trillion they spend then is $10,000 to each of those taxpayers, right? And so if you've got a dual income household, then you're paying $20,000 for that $1 million or $1 trillion federal military budget, right? And so the $7.5 trillion budget, that becomes, whatever it is, $150,000 to your household, right? And so, like, I mean, when you put it in that terms, like, are we so concerned about our safety that, like, you want to pay $20,000 for the military, right? Like, I mean, that's a lot of money, right? And then you throw all this other stuff into it, like, health and human services is like 1.5 trillion, or it might actually be over 2 trillion. Like, it's another $20,000 per person. So $40,000 per household. And, and then these young people entering the workforce, like my kids, like, they're paying, $10,000 for this and $10,000 for that. And then the borrowing on top of that, that's, that $38 trillion deficit is $380,000 to each taxpayer, right? So
that doesn't even count the The what's the word?
unfunded liabilities.
Unviable,
Unfunded liabilities.
yes,
So
unfunded liabilities. There it is.
The estimate
Hundreds of trillions.
yeah, the unfunded liabilities, that the estimates like on the low end are $150 trillion. On the high end, they're $250 trillion. So if it's 250, it's probably more than that, because like we can do math and we know our government, right? So that's $2.5 million to each person of unfunded liabilities. So I mean, it's just like if you sent people a bill, like you get your cable bill, you get your cell phone bill, and you get your military bill, people would be like, "What the hell?" Like,
Right.
how's my military bill costing, 10,000% more than my cable bill? Like, people would be pissed.
Now you have kids, bro. Like, what do you say to your child? He's not a child anymore. He's a young man at this point. But like, what do you say to him? Like, what do you say? Like, hey man, I'm sorry about your future, bro.
I got three boys, and I got three boys, and the youngest just left for college, and I mean, they're in various stages of understanding it, and I think that's kind of the interesting part of it, is like when you're new to it, you're just happy to have a job, and you'll deal with whatever BS you have to deal with to just get a paycheck and move out of the house and buy a car and all those things. So you're not like really concerned with like, why do they take so much on my paycheck? You get a paycheck, you read the number, you go, all right, here's what I can buy with it, right? And then you've got the older people that are like, I paid all this money into the system. I'm going to keep voting for the system because like I'm hoping to get my Social Security money back, and Medicare, Medicaid, whatever it is. Like they vote for like, all right, well, like we may have lost at this, but like maybe I'll get something back. Like, I probably, if they would have invested my Social Security money, I'd probably be getting like $10,000 a month, but I'll settle for the $1,200 a month they give us. Like, so when you're in these different stages of the life cycle, like, I think that you're more apt to settle for what they give you, right? And so like there's only a sweet spot of people that are starting to make real money. And that's the other point I like to make, is you only make great money for like 10 years of your career, 15 years of your career. And like people think it's going to go on forever. And then you get a little older and you get laid off or whatever. And it's like, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, how do I pay for this house? How do I pay for, 4 cars or whatever you're at that point, college, my retirement account. It's just like, people don't get like that the gravy train ends at some point and they replace you with a 20-year-old, or they replace you with a robot or whatever it is. And it's like, by the time you realize like this was a big scam, it might be too late for you.
Or even inflation. You left the inflation part out. Like there's people out there who
my two fans are in the chat. My two fans are in the chat, so I appreciate that.
That's right. But like, they don't even like the inflation part. Everybody leaves that part out. Like, for instance, like I had a buddy of mine, he's like, oh man, I just, I made 50 grand on the stock market. I invested, 5-6 years ago. I said, dog, that 50 grand ain't shit, bro. He's like, what do you mean it's 50 grand? I said, 50 grand when you first, made that investment was probably all right. 50 grand now is nothing. 50 grand will get you nowhere. Zero, nothing. $50,000 will cover your bills for probably a few months and it's over.
Well, I'm a math guy, so I like looking at the math of it, right? And now the average new car costs 60 grand, right? And so when we were younger, right, and you went and bought a car, if you bought a brand new car, it was like 20 something, right? Yep. And now it's like 60 grand. Like, and there was like no such thing as a 5-year car loan when we were younger, right? Like the max they give you was like 3 years.
Now it's 8.
Like, yeah,
8 years,
so like,
bro.
No, but take that 5-year loan, right? Like, just principal on that is $1,000, right? And so now you're at $1,000 a month for your new car, and that's not even counting interest, right? So like I mean, that's just absolute insanity. My car just hit 250,000 miles. So shout out to my car.
You must drive a rice burner.
No, a Ford.
Nice. Nice. I'll tell you what. In 2003, I had a roofing business. And I bought a brand new Duramax 2500 with the Allison transmission and brand new off the lot. I got that thing for 40 grand in 2003. Guess how much that truck is right now? About 90.
I was going to say one. I was going to say 100.
Somewhere around there. And that is depending on what gadgets and gizmos you want, right? But if you want just your standard, 2500 diesel, you're looking at close to $100,000, bro. And the funny thing is about it, like I was just listening. I'm an old school hip hop guy. I love old school hip hop. I love metal. I love punk rock, but I'm an old school hip hop guy. And I was listening to Ice-T, New Jack Hustler. I believe it was New Jack Hustler, OG Original Gangster. It was on the same album, one of those two songs. And he's like, 19, I got a $50,000 car. Dude, back in the early 90s when that album came out, $50,000 got you a Lexus or a Mercedes-Benz or something.
No, it's a Kia.
Yeah.
You feel like you're dragging your ass on the ground.
You get like a Kia SUV. Like my work truck was 50 grand, dude. Like what the shit, man?
Yeah.
But he's talking about that was like a big deal to have a $50,000 car back in the early 90s. Not, and you're looking 30, 35, 36 years ago now when that album came out. And this is all due to endless money printing, dude. And this is where Americans lack knowledge is the way money works.
It's not though. It's not though. It's endless money printing, but it's also regulations and the government overhead and all of these things. Like when they tax people, like that all goes into the price, right?
Holy shit. Anti-ICE murder protest. And
do you see that video today?
Yeah, but now he's saying it's going on now.
Yeah,
Chris,
I mean that was awful. That was absolutely awful.
About the guy that ran the car through there?
The woman, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. And now this is what I'm saying, men, you need to really get off your ass, start working out, start training, get into hand-to-hand combat, start training with guns. No, seriously though, you guys, I'm telling you right now. He says, Terry said it too. Yes, I'm watching this. Guys, get up off your lazy asses. Seriously, get up, stop drinking every day. I like to drink too. I had drinks tonight. But like, seriously, this is what we're dealing with right now. You have children, you have women in your lives that you need to protect. I'll tell you what, and if you need to get into something hand to hand, I'll tell you what, bro. That's going to tell you what kind of shape you're in. And most fights usually last about 2 to 3 minutes at the most. After about 1 minute, maybe even 45 seconds of actual hand-to-hand combat for most of your common man is going to be gassed. They are going to
go hit a heavy bag for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And see if you need the ER after that.
You are going to be gassed. You are going to be gassed, okay? So men, fellas, listen to me. I love you. We're at like 2,500 views right now. Listen to me very carefully. Stack up, work out, get your wind, drink a lot of freaking water. Stay hydrated. I mean this. This sounds crazy to most of you. But the days are coming. The days are coming. This is crazy. Unbelievable. This is so sad. This is so sad. Townsend said, what are you watching on, Terry? I'm flipping between a few sources. Good grief.
It's my boy, Chris.
Free is from the South Side. He knows hand-to-hand, man. We all know hand-to-hand, but Free isn't young like neither am I, dude, and that's just what it is, man.
I got the 3 minutes in me, though. I guarantee you.
That's all you got, though. That's it, man. You got, like you said it before on one of the shows, like you tell your kids, man, I still got one more left in me or whatever. I remember you said that. It's true, man. Like us guys who are still strong and willing to do something, are actually getting very old. Look at these gray whiskers, man. I'm not cool like Free with a nice head of hair and a dark beard, man. I'm gray. I'm bald. You know what I'm saying? And this is a lot of fellas. You need to get up off your ass and start training for stuff like this, man. Enough already, Scott Horton would say. But let's close it out, man. We're at 2 hours, man. We need to close out. I got to work tomorrow like a big boy, anyways, man. Free, how can we find you? You already talked about what you're going to be doing, but you can feel free to talk about it again if you want.
I am on X at Smarter Game Show. We are on YouTube and Rumble at Freedom Uncut. Terry's been putting our shorts up on YouTube. So please go look at our shorts, like them, share them, do all of those things. We're trying to get monetized on YouTube, which would be a huge help to us. So if you could do that and help us out, we'd be appreciative of that. We are on live Tuesday nights and Friday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's going to change a little bit with all the state conventions coming up. Some of those are going to be on Saturday nights. So, but check us out, follow me, set notifications, do all those things. And if you have recommendations of who we should have on the show, hit me or Terry up. Terry's info is in my bio. Make sure you follow both of us. And yeah, love being here, man. I'm a huge fan of yours. Always have loved this show. So glad you're back, brother.
Likewise, I appreciate you coming on. I love what you're doing, man. You're killing it, man. You're doing better than I am, seriously. And I'm glad. Like, I'm not a hater, bro. Like, keep getting that message out and keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great things. You know, eventually this is, you know, I personally see you doing the game show full time as like a job. I think you're there. You're very close, you know, and I'll do what I can to share everything. But in the meantime, guys, please like, share, follow, and subscribe here. All my handles are at Buds in Reality, just like you see it on here on the screen. And also, please just wake up and just do your due diligence as human beings, okay? Because we're at a point in our lives where things are happening and we need to be in the know. But also, turn this stuff off. Listen to Free Show, listen to my show, listen to your podcast or whatever, but we don't need to be on X 24/7. We don't need to be doing the political thing 24/7. Go out, touch grass, love your families, love your neighbors, love Christ, peace, love, and liberty.
Find a good girl, and also hate the government because they hate you back.
Oh my God, yes. Find a good girl and hate the government. Don't love the government. Oh my God. Peace, love, and liberty. Y'all be good.